Hey everybody, how's it going? Today I would like to do a video on a large mistake that I've made over the past 2 years because I failed to follow my own advice. This is going to be a difficult video for me. I'm used to admitting that I've done stupid things, and I'm used to admitting when I'm wrong, and I'm used to being open with people about just what an idiot I am. Yet usually I'm open with you about how stupid I was about something that I had done a long time ago, not something stupid that I had done right now. So forgive me if my presentation here is not my usual peppy and happy self. The mistake that I've made over the past 2 years, by far one of the greatest ones, was moving to this new store location. My old store was a very small place. It looked like an unprofessional setup. Everything was kind of rickety-rackety together. It was all put together when I was kind of broke and didn't really have the money for a store anyway. And you can see it in this tour video. And there were anywhere from 10 to 14 people working there at a time. I was very, very fearful that if business went up even a tiny bit, that we would be inundated with a bunch of one-star reviews and unhappy customers, and that it would ruin our reputation because I couldn't fit more people in there. I couldn't fit more devices. I couldn't fit more tools. And I was also afraid of things being lost or disorganized as a result of there being no space for anything. And whether I like it or not, this business in many ways is seen as one of the focal points for the right to repair movement. So if I screw up, if I wind up having things unprofessional happen, or if my store winds up treating people poorly, or my store fails in some way or is a dump, that this reflects poorly not just on me, but on an entire movement and tons of other people. I started looking for a new space. I wanted a space where I could keep the cross-pollination of ideas that happens here and keep the workplace culture that we have here. This workplace culture is one where people are constantly learning from each other and learning new things all the time and working together. My customer service person, who became the manager, also became the data recovery guy. He got tired of hearing the excuses from the data recovery guy, so he would just walk over to the data recovery guy, wound up working on stuff with him. And then when he left, he became the new data recovery guy, and he wound up being better at it. And when my board repair person right now started as a shipping person, he would just kind of walk over to the shipping table off from the shipping table, walk over to the board repair table, ask questions, look over people's shoulders, stare at what they're doing, look at the problems when they come in, stare at where the corrosion was in the boards, read the notes, and then he became a board repair person. And I wanted to keep that. And if I had 2 or 3 separate locations, this one for mail-in, this one for walk-in, this one for that, it just wouldn't have been the same. So I found this place, which was within about half a mile of my old location, almost 4 times the size, and I moved here right before COVID happened. The rent was $12,500, and it goes up to, I think, $13,000 or $13,500 or so this year, and continuously, ad infinitum with rent increases over time. And that was a bad decision. I compounded that bad decision by deciding that I was going to ignore my own advice and try to make this place as perfect as I can. You see, if this store is a store that's looked up to around the world, it can't look like this anymore. It can't look like this anymore. So I ignored my advice in this video about perfectionism being a weakness, not a bragging right, and I sought to make this place as perfect as possible. In my office, there was a hole in it, and you would hear me curse when I would kind of wind up falling into this hole because the floor was not straight or level. It was very aggravating when you're sitting over a microscope all the time. I want everybody here to be comfortable. So when the floor here did this, so I found someone to make it level, who royally screwed me over. And then I had Sonny help me out and finish that. He's a good friend and contractor. And the renovations were costly, but what also was costly was outfitting everything to be perfect. I wanted to see what could happen if I actually made this place perfect. What could happen if I made it as efficient as humanly possible for people to do their jobs? If it wasn't, I'm out of space, my desk has no space, I don't have the right tool. What if I did everything I could to make this place as organized as humanly possible? How could it be? Maybe I could unleash this potential. And right as that happened, COVID happened, and business went psh, compounding that was the fact that I was on moving, renovations, and the additional rent I paid here over what I would have paid at my old location if I stayed there, about $200,000. So I look at it, and I look back, and I see if I hadn't made this move, I would be $200,000 richer right now. And this is something I've done many times over the course of my life. I've talked about it in videos on my old business failing. I've talked about it in videos I've done about the recording studios that I used to work at that I quit, and where I kind of waste years of my life or I screw up horribly with a business, and I'm kind of sitting there years later realizing that years have gone by, and either lost lots of money or lots of time. And what happens when I do that is I just kind of wind up sitting in a chair. Like someday it finally hits me. Like I'm just looking at myself in the mirror, and I can't lie to myself anymore. And it just hits me in the face. You screwed up everything. You can't even remotely pretend that this is successful. You have screwed up big time. What are you going to do about it? And I'll just wind up sitting in my chair for 10 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, and a little dialogue would just go back and forth, which goes something like, you had this opportunity. Had you done the right thing with it, you would be here. Had you done something mediocre with it, you'd be here. But you're Louis Rossmann, so now you're here because you fucked up and you made these particular horrible choices. And because I've made those horrible choices, I'm here when I could have been here, here, here. You don't deserve another opportunity, because if you were anybody else, you would have taken this, and even if you didn't make it here, you would have made it here. You don't deserve another opportunity because you've done this. You don't deserve another opportunity. You don't deserve to try again. Look at where you could have been if you did the right thing. And just circles and circles over and over and over and over again. And I remember when that business failed, I'll never forget it. It was Thanksgiving of 2011. I remember going home and sitting in my chair until about 4 in the morning. I just remember sitting in there the sun managed to start coming up at some point before I even started typing in my journal. And I was just sitting there doing the same thing over and over again. And what's interesting with this time is that now there is a sense of guilt involved there, because in spite of the fact that I've made all the mistakes that I've made, I'm still better off than many people who tried to start a business from scratch. In 2008, I was dirt poor. I had credit card debt and I had 200 something bucks in the bank. I was fucking broke as could be. And I started this business at that time, and now it has, about a dozen employees. I do better than a lot of people that I know over the past 2 years. So then I'll feel guilty because I consider, this is an opportunity that not a lot of other people have. You have it and you screwed it up. But at the end of the day, you're still not as screwed as many other people. So do you even deserve the right to try again? Shouldn't someone else be able to try again, not you? And I'll be honest, I kind of did that over moving here a lot. I kind of started doing that whole sitting in the chair thing around April or May or June. Somewhere around May or June of last year. And I've been doing it for about the past 18 months. And the reason I'm posting this video is because I want people to see that, there are a lot of people out there that kind of look up to me that I don't think should, but that I want them to see that, yeah, you can get featured in the news, you could have international recognition, you could have a YouTube channel with 1 million subscribers, and still wind up just beating yourself up and sitting in a chair about it because you have colossally fucked up your life or your business. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now. So I will look at this and go, you could have been $200,000 richer. You could not have a back rent debt of $83,000. You could have a sustainable business, but you don't because you did X, Y, and Z. And what makes me feel guilty about it is that I didn't follow my own advice. So in this video, what I talked about is that a real business is not a real business because it has the 100% proper tools, it has a license, it has a fancy store, it has employees that wear, clothes with a company logo on it. What makes a business a real business is that you treat it like it's a real business. When your customers come to you, you care about solving their problems. If you screw up while solving their problems, you make it right for them. You cover things under warranty. You're always trying to do better and be better so that you can offer better to your customers. That's a real business. It's not about whether it looks nice. It's not about the branding. It's not about the prim and proper receptionist when you walk in and the fancy schmancy tables and the place looking like a doctor's office. It's not about the decorations. It's not about the architect. It's not about the designer. You treat it like it's a real business. That's what matters. I forgot that. And because I forgot that, I am down, considerably. And I earned it. I deserve it. I can't predict that COVID would occur, but I came up with this advice 7 years before COVID was a thing, 2013. Was I paying attention to it? No. I kind of thought this business is associated with a movement, right to repair. I can't have this place, be looking like a slovenly mess. I can't have a place that doesn't run properly because it doesn't have enough space. Yeah, granted, it may cost a little more and it may be a little risky if things don't work out, but I can't have a business that represents all these ideals for all these people and have that business at any point in time disappoint customers because I cannot accommodate future business. I could raise my prices so that I get less business so that I could work out of that old place, but then I'd be the very ripoff that I accuse Apple of being. I could, risk it, but I didn't want to risk it. I didn't want to risk becoming overwhelmed at that location. And that resulted in me making bad decisions. So what I did for quite a while is, I said, okay, well, let's kind of piddle-paddle along and see what happens and blah-de-blah-de-blah. And admittedly, for a lot of it, I would sit down in the metaphorical chair, whatever that was, and just kind of tell myself, you would be here, but you're here because you made this decision. You screwed up. You made a mistake. You've made this mistake before. Because you've made this mistake before and you didn't learn from it and you made it again and again and again, you don't deserve to try again. Other people who are in your position could have made millions of dollars, but because you're an idiot, because you're a dumbass, you screwed up. I spent about a year and a half telling myself that. It's really interesting because in this video, I talk about sitting in the chair for 4 to 5 hours. I honestly think I've been sitting in this metaphorical chair for about 18 months and just not getting out of it. Just not getting out of it. So what I've done is I've worked towards renegotiations with this landlord. I don't see that. I'll be honest, I'm not a great negotiator. I'm no Jim Camp. I don't see this going anywhere. I mean, we made what I thought was a really, really basic start that, to be honest with you, is probably never going to be something that's good enough long term. Cut a couple of $1,000s off. Let's not even touch the back rent. Cut a couple of $1,000s off of the existing rents for a few months, and let's revisit where things are a few months from now. And even that, it took a month to hear back on, and they wanted to go through my personal bank accounts, my business bank accounts, our QuickBooks, profit and loss, all of that, with no guarantee that they will even stick to that very, very minor temporary arrangement of a few $1,000s off for a few months. So I'm just going to open my asshole to you all for nothing. And that wouldn't even be a solution long term, barely a solution short term. And I got to do fuck that. So a few days ago, I just kind of decided to get out of the chair. The hardest thing to do in that moment is to get out of the chair and to recognize that, you know what? I may not deserve this opportunity because of how much I've screwed up in life, because of how much I've screwed up personally, and because of how my screw-ups have cost both myself, the people that I care about, and my employees. I used to be a more generous employer than I am right now. Just throw that out there. I used to be a more generous employer. We had a great week. Here's money for everybody. That's something that I have not done over the past year and a half nearly as much as I've used to, and not nearly as much as the people out there deserve because of their hard work. I have not been able to be as generous personally as a result of this, and I just have not been as good a business owner because of it. And then I'll just tell myself, well, you don't deserve to try again. You don't deserve to fix it. You deserve to sit in the mess that you made. Perhaps your employees should be working for somebody else who doesn't make these stupid decisions time and time again. And I realize that that's just kind of a negative, that kind of negative self-talk is like a voice in my head that kind of needs to die. And what's weird for me is that in the past, it would die after 3 to 5 hours, and here it's been there for 18 months. So what I've done recently is I've decided to make a little flow chart of things and get out of my chair. For real. So recently, I spoke to a bunch of different brokers regarding spaces in this area that I could literally just walk to. Many of you will be disappointed saying, why don't you just leave New York? I would like to find a place outside of New York. Really would. I'd like to do that. And that's going to take a long time. And training people for that new space is going to take time. You know what I'd like to not do during that time? Bleed out $13K a month. To bleed out. So what I'd like to do is I would like to find a space that's 1 block this way, or 1 block that way, or 1 block this way, or 1 block that way, that's empty. That's half the price of this one. Set up shop there. So step 1, stop the bleeding. Step 2, look elsewhere. Step 3, rebuild. And I've started towards that process. I'm starting on it, and I am working on it with each passing day. I'm getting out of my chair. And the reason I'm posting this is probably a genuinely useless video for you all, is I just really want to demonstrate that that even people that you perceive to be successful can actually be complete and entire fuck-ups, to the point where not only are they complete and entire fuck-ups, but they're such fuck-ups that they've done this exact same kind of thing over and over again, and 10 years later, they don't learn the lesson and they do it again, and then they get stuck in the exact same chair. Because one thing I acknowledge is that I'm still massively more successful now than I was 13 or 14 years ago, which is part of the guilt, because the me of 13 years ago would have killed to have some of the opportunities I have now, and I also think he would have smacked me in the face for making some of the mistakes that I have now. But what I'm doing is I am getting over my guilt for the fact that I've made horrible, horrible, horrible business, personal, and life decisions. I am figuring, okay, oh, what you going to do about it? Okay, so you wasted 2 or 3 years of your life working in this particular industry at that particular place, and then a worldwide economic depression happened in 2008. What are you going to do? I can get that depressed for a long time. Oh, let's try fixing MacBooks. Okay, so you destroyed your supply company, you destroyed a line of credit, you destroyed your inventory. What are you going to do? Well, let's see if I can make it back, and let's try an open repair. Let's try something new. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to do that. It's really hard to do. It's really hard to walk away from something that you had a lot of hope in, that you had a lot of faith in, that you believed in, that was a dream for you, and just recognize that it's dead because you're a fucking idiot, when anybody else with that opportunity would have done great with it. And, there's this one thing that used to show up in my comments. I don't know if it was meant as an insult, as a jealousy, or what. Where they go like, why is someone listening to, quote, this millionaire talk about this? Or why is this millionaire complaining about this? And I don't know if it was meant as an insult, but I think I was taking it as an insult. And I think the reason is, when people see, okay, you've been in business 13 years, you have repeatedly live streamed yourself doing work until 2 or 4 in the morning. You've been featured on multiple news outlets in multiple countries. You have over 1 million subscribers on a popular social media platform. I think the implication there is, if you are not a millionaire, the only answer is that you're a colossal fuck up. Because to have these opportunities, to have all these opportunities present themselves, and not only to have the opportunities present themselves, but to work as hard as you have for 13 years, and to have all these opportunities, and to be where you are, you're either lying or you're a giant fuck up. And perhaps I am a giant fuck up. Perhaps I am. And I have been at many points in the past. I probably will be at many points in the future. I don't care. I'm just going to get up out of the chair, try something new, and fix it. For me right now, I got a short-term plan, I got a long-term plan, and I'm going to fix it. I'm going to make it sustainable. And 5 to 10 years from now, I will look back on this and laugh. I remember in 2008 when that studio closed, I thought, I quit working at Avatar, which is one of the best studios in the world. The best studios in the world I quit working at, so that I could work at a place that was more of a dump just because there was more opportunity, and the owner of that destroyed his business and then decided to close. Then the economic recession and depression happened, so there wasn't really much chance of getting a job as a low-skilled person back then. Looking at that and going, well, I guess I got the biggest problem at that time was there was a session I needed to finish, and there was no studio to work at anymore, so I had to buy a MacBook to use Logic, because I only had a PC, and at that point, Apple bought eMagic, so they stopped making a Logic version for PC. My biggest problem on that point in time was that I had to buy a MacBook. Fuck. Hate Apple. Gotta buy a MacBook. Looking back at that 13 years later, I can laugh, because it was actually sadly one of the best decisions of my life, because it led to this business. Looking back in 2011, when I thought, I guess I'm screwed, I'm going to be completely bankrupt, personally, business, I'll never have a chance again. That was right before I opened my store on First Avenue, that wound up being one of the best things I ever did. And I'm sure that 5 to 10 years from now, I'm going to look back on this entire event and laugh. I have to believe in that. I kind of have to believe in that, because if I don't believe in that, then I'm never going to get up out of the chair, and I'm not going to do it again. You're probably going to make a lot of mistakes over the course of your life, where you're probably not going to fuck up as often as I am, because if you're even sitting here watching this, there's a chance that you're not nearly as stupid as I am. You're probably going to fuck up a lot over the course of your life, and what's going to make you continue to be successful, or to be successful at all, is not really going to be how smart you are. It's not going to be how resourceful you are. It's not going to be how much money you have. It's going to be when you do fuck up and you ruin everything and everything is completely destroyed. At the end of the day, when you have that little negative self-talk going through your head, do you just go, all right, well, what's next? And get up out of the chair. You got to get up out of the chair. Because if you don't get up out of the chair, you'll never get to the point where 5 years later, you're laughing at just how ridiculous it was that you ever thought there was no point to getting up out of the chair. You got to have that little bit of faith, and it's very, very difficult to have. And I don't know how I could have convinced myself in 2006, 8, 11, that it would make sense to. And I honestly don't know how to convince myself now, but it doesn't really matter. I'm doing it. I am speaking with a couple of brokers, and we may be heading to Rossmann Realty Season 3, and that's going to be quite fun. Before we get to Season 4, the section where I take a look outside in New York for a different place. I'm excited. Well, that's kind of a rambly video. Don't make the mistakes that I made. Don't believe that you need perfection, and whether or not you're a real business is based on a lot more than what other people who are your critics are going to tell you. The people that criticize you because of the look of your table, or because your staff are not wearing shirts with the company logo, or because you don't have a pretty design or any of that kind of stuff, and you never want to do business with those people anyway. Now, with a lot of the personal mistakes I've made, I don't share that much, that certain elements of my personal life on the channel. When it comes to the business ones, like in 2008 and 2011, I didn't have a YouTube channel yet, so I couldn't really share it with you in real time. You couldn't see the journey of me, just getting completely economically destroyed and then just, well, let's try to fix it and start from scratch, because I didn't really start posting to this channel until late 2012. So that really, you just didn't really get to see any of it. And what I'm kind of hoping I can do with this channel now is I want to be able to demonstrate and showcase the process of me getting up out of the chair and what happens at that point, to try and model it for other people, so that hopefully other people believe that, yeah, you can fix your own mess. You can, just start from, you can just pick up the pieces, put everything together, create a plan, work on attacking that plan, rather than just sit and wallow in self-pity and misery consistently, which is admittedly something that I do way too often. One of the things that screws me up more than anything else is I can never appreciate what I have. What I do is not because I always want something more, but because I don't feel like I deserve any of it. I'll just look at it and go, if you had made this decision, this decision, this decision, if you didn't do this stupid thing, you'd be here. But because you did a stupid decision, you're here. And anybody else in your situation, anybody else at all, if they started here, even if they didn't make it here, they'd be here. You're here. Somebody else deserves that opportunity, not you. And the guilt just kills me. And it'll just sit there and like rip me apart to pieces all day. But at the end of the day, that doesn't really help. That doesn't actually help me get out of the chair. It doesn't fix my problem. It doesn't make me feel better. It's not beneficial to the people in my life, whether my personal life or my business life. It doesn't help the people that rely on me for an income, and it's just not healthy. So I'm hoping that this channel can serve a little bit as a window into what somebody does when they have completely fucked everything up. And I want you to see what that process looks like of just picking up the pieces and starting from scratch. And all right, looks like the last 2.5 years was a complete clusterfuck and financial disaster. Let's try again. And that's what I'm gonna try to do here. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you for watching, and I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to Rossmann Realty Season 3. See you later.